Oh hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Bliss Foster, and today we're going to be talking about Kiko Kostadinov's Fall Winter 2019 menswear collection. Kiko seems to be occupying this space in the menswear world of the if you know kind of hype underground brand. Most of us are aware that he's done a collaboration with ASICS that now resells for like over $1,000 or something silly. But I thought it would be definitely worth looking at the Fall Winter 2019 menswear show because this is the first one where I kind of noticed that he fully stepped out of his shell and really put forward a presentation that wowed me. Typically this is the part of the video where I encourage you to go look at the actual runway video itself, but there is no runway video for this one. There are only images, so I can just show them all to you now. I was actually digging around a lot to try to figure out if there was any footage at all, and as far as I can tell, there is not. All right, cool. Now you know everything that I know, and we can explore together the wild and mysterious world of Kiko. As many of you know, I typically like to divide these analysis videos up by the show notes and kind of use those as a guide to walk through the different references in the show. But this time there will be no show notes. I reached out to Kiko, multiple channels, multiple weeks, multiple reminder emails, and nothing. They just don't want to share them for some reason. So we're going to go based on the information that we do have, and that is surprisingly a lot. Even though we don't have the official show notes from the brand itself, the Vogue review of this show points out that the two primary references were the original Japanese version of The Ring and the 1960 film Midnight Lace, which stars Doris Day. You haven't heard of her, but Grandma has, and she loves Doris Day. All right, let's dive into The Ring first. In order to understand the references that Kiko is making to The Ring, it's really important that you understand most of the details of the plot from The Ring. So I'm gonna try to really quickly summarize. Just kidding, this screenshot is all you need to understand about The Ring. The most clear reference that's being made here is the hair. Duh. Even for those who don't even care for horror movies, you probably know that the girl in the dress with the long hair that's in front of her face is from The Ring. After the opening credits, the first shot in The Ring is of a television that's playing a baseball game that two girls are watching, which could explain the baseball gloves used throughout the collection. This jacket that the protagonist wears could be the inspiration for the color palette of this specific look, and it definitely borrows from the general fit from a few different characters throughout the movie. This very dropped shoulder with a billowy silhouette. And speaking of the creepy girl, she did seem to inspire at least one look in the collection with that long, blank dress. Ultimately, The Ring didn't have a lot of direct references to the clothes themselves. The thing that makes The Ring interesting as it connects to this Kiko show is the medium in which the show is presented to us. Again, there was no video for the show. We all had to look at individual still images on our phones. One of the most dominant visual motifs in The Ring is the kind of wavy effect that can be seen on a video when you're playing a tape through a VCR. A few of the weaves of certain garments ended up taking on a similar distorted look. So what we're looking at right now is a screenshot of my phone that I took. Here's what that actually looks like. Isn't that nuts? Unfortunately, anyone who sees pictures of these clothes will die within 7 days. All right, moving on, part 2. Midnight Lace is a movie from 1960 that stars Doris Day and features the incredible costuming work of a woman who went simply by Irene. In the history of costume design, this woman apparently, I've just found out, is a big deal. She had her own successful fashion house for a while, but her huge cultural contribution came through the 40-something films that she created costumes for. The men throughout Midnight Lace are mostly wearing regular suits, and it's not very exciting. The women are wearing some pretty wild stuff. Let's jump straight into it. This white coat that the movie opens with is referenced through look 20, and while this specific neck accessory, And while this specific neck accessory isn't referenced in a direct way, the idea of that same shape in non-fur materials is used as a visual motif throughout the show. A few of the looks have these wonderful breaks right at the elbows that give them this nice, subtle, but very unique flair. That could be explained by the fact that it was just kind of posh for women to wear coats that were that same length. And to be honest, it just kind of makes sense, like your elbow bends there. Besides the very neutral blacks, whites, and beiges throughout the show, there's two colors that really dominate these looks. And I think that this really beautiful green came from this outfit. While neither is an exact match when you put it side by side, I could maybe see the tone shift in that green being the result of a change in material. Obviously, the same color of green when applied to a wool is going to look different than to a polyester, than to a cotton, than to a linen. They're all going to be slightly different interpretations of the same color. One of the coolest and most remarkable parts about the outerwear for this show was the very freehand use of buttons, which is something that you really don't see very much in menswear, at least in this way. There's a number of outfits throughout Midnight Lace that use buttons in this very creative way. I'm pretty sure that look 15 is meant to reference these white evening gloves that you can see here in the background. About halfway through the movie, we get to see Doris Day in like the coolest single outfit that she wears in the entire movie. This outfit doesn't get a lot of screen time, and it definitely doesn't get the lighting that helps us appreciate that texture, but I'm pretty sure that it's meant to be the inspiration for this look here. I'm gonna break the rules a little bit here, and I'm gonna edit that image and turn the brightness up on it a little bit, so you can see it a little bit better here. Obviously not as helpful as just having a picture of the coat itself. This incredible suit jacket has a really gorgeous detail on the back collar. Oftentimes for pinstripe suits, the stripes of the collar are generally in alignment with the stripes on the suit. They're not supposed to line up exactly, but they at least face the same direction. But this like crowning effect that these have over the regular pinstripes on the body of the suit just makes for such a crisp, beautiful looking jacket. That could have been part of the inspiration for these really wild, beautiful looking shirts, pants, and coats. Finally, there's this scene that features a lot of older men wearing these raincoats that are made of this PVC kind of plastic material. I'm pretty sure that the shimmering effect that those coats have were the general inspiration for the outerwear of the last few looks. Lastly, I was trying to puzzle through why all of the models' hair had these pearls and precious stones twisted into it. And I think it might just be because Midnight Lace is a movie that's placed in this setting of high-end opulence. She's become recently married to this fabulously wealthy man, and she has no responsibilities, so her life is just cascading from one gorgeous room to another. But in the middle of all of this decadence and security, she keeps getting calls at her home phone where a mysterious stranger is threatening to kill her. So that unsettled, threatened feeling mixed with all of this material wealth kind of gets encapsulated in the hair pieces for this show. Also, on a more technical level, it looks cool. For a few years now, Kiko has been building his reputation while he worked as the creative lead at Macintosh. Now that he's left there, I think there's a little bit of pressure to show that his brand can stand creatively on its own. Maybe more importantly, can financially stand on its own. And at least from a creative standpoint, he seems to be doing a really good job of that. We're not really privy to the financial situation of that company, but he seems to be approaching the idea of collaboration in a very different way. ASICS, in the first place, is a pretty unusual brand for someone to be doing an ongoing collaboration with. While most companies and creatives seem to be shooting for the biggest box brands like Nike and Adidas and Under Armour, he's gone for a much more low-key brand. And while those sneakers are definitely very on trend for where menswear is right now, the real highlight for me is these incredible clothes. Even the specific items from this collection that are branded with ASICS logo, these don't seem like the kind of things that brands are typically willing to make a bet on. Like, this fits so seamlessly into the rest of the collection here that it makes me wonder if ASICS literally just told him, you can design anything you want. Obviously, in most cases, they set very strict parameters on what a collaborator can and cannot do with their existing silhouettes and designs. Like the finances, this is another thing where we have no way of knowing this for sure, but according to the interview that Kiko gave to GQ, they do give him a lot of creative freedom, and the clothes back that up. We're reaching this really interesting place in the fashion zeitgeist where men are really hungry for new ways to get dressed. More than any other time in history, more and more guys are just buying women's clothes and wearing whatever the hell they want. And some of that is definitely because we're finally starting to make some progress on gender norms and human rights in the LGBTQ communities. But in addition to that, I think a new generation of men are finally becoming sartorially literate enough to be able to say that they just want new kinds of clothes. We're looking for a way to express masculine energy, but in new shapes and with new garments. There's definitely been some pop culture moments that have pointed towards this. But if you dig a little bit deeper, I think the whole reason that the Louis Vuitton bib and the Alix chest rig got so huge on the internet is because a lot of guys saw that as an interesting way to spice up their mid-layer game. And throughout this collection, Kiko kind of answers that call by giving us some really bold directions for the shapes of men's clothes. And what I think is just so interesting and cool about that is that his primary inspiration from this is coming from that high Hollywood glamour of the 1960s. If you haven't recognized it already, this is the most eye-rolling, Tumblr core, basic bitch, if you can't take me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Like that kind of shit. And while that style may be popular with the trashiest girl that you went to middle school with, in the world of women's wear, we're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum from this right now. But when it's done for men, it's kind of cool. Makes me want to buy a cigarette holder. So even looks from this show that don't make a direct reference to individual garments used in midnight lace, there's still a lot of the shapes and details from that era that are carried into this collection. These curved hem jackets that almost kind of look like bolero jackets. Another one is these cape-styled coats. The very luscious, fuzzy texture of this specific coat. And even little mixed fun details that don't have any particular purpose. These align very well with the playfulness of women's wear from the 1960s. Hey, as always, thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear what runway shows you would like me to analyze next. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Hit me up and say hi. I like to say hi back. We can talk about clothes and stuff. I just love you. Bye.